We're live. We are live. This is Senate Finance. And Michael has the hot seat. We are going to try and pick up a few. We didn't start yesterday. Finish a few we started yesterday. 542 is the terminating testing of schools in Vermont for PCBs. Polychlorinated biphenyl.
Good afternoon. This is Mike O'Grady with Ledge Council. I am going to walk you through the proposed amendment to H542 as reported out by your Education Committee. This is on your website. Okay. The first instance of amendment, as you recall, I walked you through 542.
Right.
Previously, the General Assembly required all schools built or renovated before 1980 to do indoor air testing of PCBs. And you had required them to do that originally by 2025, and then you push that up to 2027. On page 2 of the amendment, you will see that that requirement is being pushed out to August 1st of 2035. It's August because A&R likes to do the testing when the students aren't there. So giving them an extra month, and then 2035 is the number that Charlotte emailed me yesterday that you want.
Yeah.
Then moving on to the second instance of amendment, both of these, there's 2 instances in the second instance, and they're both very technical. In regard to the special fund that's created into which funds could be granted for investigation, remediation, and mitigation of PCBs found in schools. The Attorney General had asked that the language be tweaked a little bit so that say any litigation recovery by the state for the cost of addressing PCB contamination in the schools, less attorney's fees and costs. And then with all special funds, there's always, or maybe not all, but most, there's always the potential for the General Assembly to put money in the funds.
Yes.
The language that came out of Senate Education said money's appropriated to the fund, and JFO sometime in the last 10 years has gone to a preference for transfer. And so that's, I'm still old and in the way. And so I use appropriated when I should. And that's what that change was.
You're old and wise.
So that is the amendment.
So we extended the date. And we did. And it would. We set up. We did the change any litigation recovery by the state, which was requested by the AG. And then we corrected another Scrivener's error, which we've done more than once in here in the last 2 days. I think that was what we had agreed on yesterday. And if that's what we've agreed on, I could use a motion to amend H542 as presented in draft 1.2 dated 5/14 at 5:08 p.m.
So moved.
Senator Chittenden has moved to do that. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll wait for everyone's news. Oh, sorry. All right, it's hard as you count if you're behind me.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Senator Brock, I didn't hear you.
I said yes.
You said yes, okay. I've got that.
Not at school.
Okay. Appreciate it, be quiet then. 601. Senator Beck is at
Yeah.
UVM.
Medicine.
Yes, commencement.
let's have him
weekend
report on.
of the- and
That's what I was
of the board there, so he will not be here this afternoon. Okay, I now would like a I need a motion to approve unless there are further amendments.
I would move favorably as amended.
Senator Chittenden has moved that we approve H 542 as amended. Any further discussion? Any further amendments? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. I'm reading that 601. Okay, we are off and rolling.
Who wants to take this one?
Glenn's gonna send it you, you'll report this one.
Happy to.
Okay. All right. That was the easy part. Now we are on to H 915. And this is an act relating to establishing an extended producer responsibility program for beverage containers, fondly known as the bottle bill.
That is correct, Chair. H 915 it has a short term and a long term. I'm gonna focus first on the long term. The long term is that it is going to require manufacturers and distributors of beverage containers, which we refer to in the bill as deposit initiators, and I will explain that later. To require them to form a producer responsibility organization, adopt a stewardship plan approved by A&R for the collection of beverage containers that are subject to redemption. There are several different financial / revenue components of the bill. Do you want me to focus on those? or do you want-
Since we haven't seen this bill or any version,
Okay,
why don't you do this like the 2,000-foot section by section? What's it doing? Is it adding new bottles? Is it adding one bottle?
I can do all that, but I'll move pretty quickly
Yeah,
and I'll stop and focus on the revenue.
that would be the
That's
best
okay.
way to do that.
Okay, first section is the definition section. This defines the scope of the bottle bill. It is not changing. There is not expansion of the definition of beverage. There is not expansion of the definition of container. There's actually a limit on the definition of container, that anything that is 3 meters or more would not be considered a container. There are definitions of point of redemption and point of redemption with immediate return of deposit that are fairly intuitive, but they will be used throughout the bill. I won't focus on them right now. Page 4, section 1522. This is a revenue section, or at least it's a section that this committee has expressed interest in
Okay.
in the past. It's the deposit on the bottle, on the beverage container subject to redemption. It is not changing.
Okay.
What is changing is that there are these words that say not less than prior to 5 cents. And people interpreted that to mean that it could be more than 5 cents. And so for clarification, the not less than words were struck. And then on page 5 is the handling fee. Does everyone know what the handling fee is? So the handling fee has 2 components. There's the fee for those beverage containers that are commingled together for basically joint pickup and disposition. And that handling fee is being raised from 3.5 to 4.5 cents. Similarly, the handling fee for non-commingled, those that have to have entirely separate sort and they aren't part of the joint collection and disposition, that is being raised from 4 to 5 cents. Now, both of those are only short term because once the producer responsibility organization sets up a stewardship plan beginning March 1, 2029, those handling fees will no longer apply. And you will see that statement on page 5, lines 11 to 14. Beginning March 1, 2029, a retailer or person operating retention center shall be reimbursed for beverage containers according to a fair compensation requirement of the plan. So that's, let's see.
Clarity on this. I want to know who's paying the fee and in what circumstances. So this is when the, let's say, beverage warehouse place, they got the cans, they give the nickel back. And so now they submit a receipt to whom for the cans and bottles that they collected, and where is that money coming from?
So the manufacturers and distributors, known as the deposit initiators in this bill, are the ones that pay the handling fee.
It's like the Farrells.
It's the Farrells, it's the Alchemist, it's Pepsi, if they're distributing directly, they're the ones that pay. And there is no specific state revenue source or specific recognition of where that money is coming from. It is just that the deposit initiator has to pay the retailer or the retention center.
They're segregating by who the bottles are from.
Yes, and it's because within the co-mingling agreement, it's more efficient, it's more effective. There's less labor and time that's required to redeem,
Segregate.
manage, and then have collected. And it's always just alongside in here. It's always been this way. And the non-commingled has always been hired to encourage those that don't commingle to join the commingling, because it increases your cost if you have to pay that extra fee on the non-commingled. So that becomes an incentive to join the co-mingled program.
Sorry, understood. I spent a very brief amount of time in a redemption room. And I vividly remember, because I did not sort the best way, getting screamed at for not doing that in the correct way. Apparently I see why. So if Pepsi sends drinks to wherever, beverage store A, do they send along these 4.5 cents with it?
No, so the 4.5 cents is paid when effectively for what is collected from the retail redemption or redemption center. It's not, doesn't travel with.
Okay.
What travels with is the deposit. The 5 cents goes from the manufacturer to the retailer. The retailer charges it to the customer. Customer goes away, comes back. Retailer gives back the 5 cents, right? And then the manufacturer gives the 5 cents back.
So then where does 4.5 cents get paid from? If it's the initial.
It's from the manufacturer. So there is no specific source that's in state law about where the handling fee comes from. It's just required to be paid.
It's similar to, we require manufacturers to take back batteries. The concept is they send them out, they made money sending them out, they should be responsible for disposing of.
Right, but you don't pay
Right. This is
the
early,
collection sites a
right,
fee per battery.
no. They take them back.
I'm generally understanding this whole process, but I'm really intrigued by the people that collect the cans back. Where do they get that check from? the money for both commingled and mingled?
I'm from commingled, it comes from Tom. From non-commingled, that's a separate individual relationship. Samra is the contracted entity that runs the commingling program.
Okay,
I mean, there is a redemption center in the room that could probably tell you where he gets it from the non-commingled.
and just tell us who you are and who you represent.
Yeah.
Shane Switzer, Linneville Redemption. It all comes from Tomra, commingle or non-commingle fee. Tomra picks up the bags and the sorts from us. And they pay us on a weekly basis. They send a check for everything that they pick up. Commingle and non.
So they count,
So
you
we're,
count the bottles or did I do?
We count and sort for customer purposes.
Okay,
And then when Tomra comes, we have bags with a certain number of cans in them that they take away, cans, bottles, whatever it may be, that they take away. And that's how we get reimbursed. Whatever they take away from us, we get
they
reimbursed.
get,
for it.
so you send them a bag of 100 cans. They send you back X dollars and you, all right.
But yes,
so then where did they get the 4.5 cents? Because I'd imagine they're just
so
showing,
that I can't speak to that.
because I thought the whole thing is you're just always chasing the money around in a circle. Everyone makes money, but no one
You're
makes money.
always chasing the deposit.
Right.
The beverage distributors get it from the sale of beverages.
It
So
comes out
when
of the
I bought
profits.
this root beer upstairs, part of the price is the price of
So it's in
their profit and their costs. And one of their costs is the 4.5 cents that they have to pay in order for cans to be recycled.
Exactly. What about the cans that pay the deposit that aren't recycled?
Those are sheets, and the sheets go to they're not deposited, they don't get the 5 cents back. So the 5 cents that wasn't used from the deposit goes back to the state, and it is goes into the clean water fund.
Not much.
And part of these sheets are used in this.
Yeah, and you're gonna look at the sheet section for a very technical reason, but it's not changing otherwise.
And you are missing another little kink in this.
That's why.
If you go to New Hampshire and buy a case of beverage, it generally comes stamped with the deposit. They don't do
Well,
it.
they
in-
do stamp, they stamp the.
They stamp them.
Yeah.
And there have been complaints that you don't pay the deposit in New Hampshire.
We,
But if you bring it over here, the Redemption Center has no way of knowing if you actually paid the 5 cents or not. So that also drains some of the money from the stuff that isn't being.
we put a little clause in here to try to deal with that. The Seinfeld phrase, so. So, that,
Oh, yes.
yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So it is not a perfect system.
We're trying to make it
But
better
it's been
here with this
working
bill.
for how many decades?
1972.
Well,
It's been since I moved into the state,
So,
over 50 years.
so go full circle with it. The sheets part,
Mm,
paid that 5 cents at the store. Go home, drink my beverage. I throw it in my blue bin
Yes.
because I don't want to drive back to somewhere that
Yep.
usually isn't open,
Right.
not many around.
You
So
don't
I
wanna
throw it in my
stand in
blue
That's
bin.
what this bill is gonna help with.
Okay, yes, that's what we've been trying
Go
to
to the
do.
blue bin more?
No, to help,
Oh.
to make sure redemption centers are open and available.
There's not even people there. It's a machine.
I can focus on the
Why am
convenience.
I driving?
I agree.
Diesel's.
Maybe we should let Michael say.
Sorry, Mike.
Let's let Michael finish.
We're on page 5. So there are sections in here about when a retailer or redemption center can, or when they are required to accept it, and when they are allowed to refuse. There are changes to the labeling of the container, that's 1524, which allows some alternative labeling options. One of the key things on page 8 in lines 12 and 13 in the labeling is that every beverage container shall contain a UPC, a universal product code, and a barcode displayed on the container to help with redemption and make redemption easier through machines or other electronic scanning. Page 8, line 15, section 1527. I think you probably all know that the Department of Liquor and Lottery runs their own effective redemption or EPR program. They sell and then they collect those bottles, redeemed bottles from a liquor store, and then they pay for redemption by redemption centers and retailers. That has been going on for years, but the transparency of that has not been transparent. And so what
Do about it.
what
Will they
the,
take wine bottles?
Case in point.
no wine.
Oh, no wine, all right.
So page 8, line 15, you are adding in effectively what DLL already does for the redemption of liquor bottles. They, on page 9, the deposit on liquor bottles is 15 cents. The handling fee paid for those who are redeeming liquor bottles is 4 cents. One of the things that the language does that is new is it allows DLL to coordinate with the producer responsibility organization subsequently required in the bill.
I think it's 4.5 cents.
It is 4.5
5 and 6,
cents.
yeah.
That's I just misnoted back again. So the DLL can coordinate with the PRO for the collection of liquor bottles if it's going to be more cost effective for DLL to do it that way instead of running their own collection or contracting for their own collection. There's a section in here about redemption center certification. I'm going to skip over that because that ultimately will be repealed once the PRO is in place. On page 11, line 3, you get to section 1530. This is the sheets. This is the abandoned beverage container deposit section. The only thing that's changing here is you're taking the definition of the deposit initiator, who is the person that is responsible for paying the sheets back to the state. You're moving that definition into the definitions for the entire chapter instead of just for this one section. Remember how I said we're using the term deposit initiator for manufacturer and distributor? There are some retail distribution models where it was confusing about who would be subject, or if both the manufacturer and distributor would be subject. For purposes of the PRO, it's the first person to collect the deposit is the one that is subject to the requirements of the bill. And we already do that for a sheet, so we just move that definition for that deposit initiator to the chapter as a whole.
So real fast, that deposit initiated. Pepsi sends drinks to store A. Store A pays that 5 cents to Pepsi, right? And then it goes all the way around.
Yeah.
Say it was $1,000 in the beginning, the deposit. Comes all the way back around, it's only $800. That's where the $200 the sheets comes from, because they had $200 more than, or they got back $200 less than they received the first time, right?
So remember that 5 cents passes down to the consumer. The
Yeah.
consumer is ultimately the one that pays the 5 cents. And that consumer has the right to come back and retrieve that 5 cents on return of the container. If the 5 cents doesn't come back, it's the consumer that's forfeiting it. It was never the manufacturer's to begin with.
Yeah.
Right?
So
So
where's the 5 cents?
the consumer paid it.
Every time you throw.
Oh,
Pepsi can,
but how do you know?
How do you know what?
The 5 cents never got,
So in that section that I
it's
just,
because of the beginning. that initiator had $1,000 worth of deposits that were
Yeah.
sold to the store.
Right, so the.
And then by the time it comes all the way back around.
Quarterly, the deposit initiator has to report how much they charged in deposit and how much they collected or paid out effectively for the redeemed containers. And then they submit that difference to the state.
Because it ebbs and flows, because you buy it here and you return it over there.
Right.
It's all gonna,
Right, it all washes out for the manufacturer in the end.
okay.
So this is germane to our section of the bill, so I think it's worth commenting. Did the morning committee, I'm curious, have you had reporting on how much is being redeemed and are these sheets increasing? Are we seeing more and more of these nickels being retained by the state to fund the clean water fund because people are just throwing them in the blue bin and not going for their nickels at the stores? I'm seeing the awning behind you.
We did see data on the redemption rate, and I don't recall it off the top of my head, but it's around 5%?
72, isn't it?
72. Okay, that's pretty close.
It's in that range. So for the record, Matt, I'm Director of Waste Management and Prevention Division at DEC. So we've basically seen a relatively continuous decline in the number of containers redeemed sort of over the years, and frankly, a reduction in the number of redemption centers that are certified with the state.
Around here, there's only one in Barron.
Right.
In
So
Washington County, there's one in Waterbury and one in Berry, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much a jam.
Yeah,
part of what this bill does is increases, and Michael hasn't gotten there, but increases the number of redemption centers where they have to be, including in a town of 7,000 or more, so Montpelier. And it also increases the percentage, it sets targets for the producers.
very similar, at least in parts, to the bill we did.
That was passed and
Yeah.
that was vetoed.
Yeah,
The difference between those two bills is that veto bill expanded the scope of the beverages
Yes.
and containers. that were
that's for the
subject
wine bottles.
to
Nobody
that.
wants.
It brought in pretty much everything except some specific exceptions.
Right.
And that had consequences outside of the redemption system, that had consequences on, say, the blue bin collectors who are that's
Yeah.
part of their revenue. It was gonna have consequences on just the sale of products and labeling products that are currently not labeled right now. There were concerns about the volume or the space that was gonna be needed for redemption, especially since some of those containers in the expanded universe were juice bottles and orange juice and et cetera, and things, and wine.
And the local vineyards were upset because they'd have to go to Brattleboro if they sold 2 bottles of wine at the farmer's market there. To pick up the bottles. That was, I remember that testimony because it's my local vineyard. So it was greatly expanded the scope. And it said a lot of things about the manufacturers organization would develop and pay for the machines.
That's what this bill does too.
Okay,
The other bill also wasn't necessarily an automatic estimate or deposit, but it was more readily if something happened, it would have increased the deposit.
This does not decrease.
This does not
okay, so
increase the
this
deposit.
is more, because my concern with that bill was the infrastructure wasn't there. People that work all week, and I know them, are not gonna take their bag of water and they've got water bottles and that one. They're not gonna go stand in line for an hour to 2 hours in Barry to get a deposit on their bottle.
Well, we're getting a little
Yes.
ahead of ourselves, but to just reiterate something that Senator Hardy just said. As part of the plan, and one of the key parts of the plan is what's called the convenience requirement. And it requires the PRO that sets up the plan to meet two specific convenience requirements. One is at least 3 points of collection per county, one of which has to have an immediate return to deposit. And then in every town with 7,000 or more, there has to be one with immediate return of deposit, unless somehow the immediate return of deposit is somehow an impediment to the system. In addition, there are two other narrative requirements for convenience, one of which is looking at designated downtowns where it's not 7,000 or more, whether or not it's appropriate to locate redemption in those areas because of the population and or the need. And then general, that they need to be located across the state in a way that is equitable and convenient for the population as a whole.
So this bill is concentrating on establishing the infrastructure that's necessary to handle the present volume without increasing the volume before we can.
Well,
handle what we
if
have.
you have increased convenience, Senator Matos doesn't have to throw his container in the blue bin.
Right,
He might want to maximize his revenue and go to the redemption center that
Just
now.
put it in the pink bin next to the blue bin and then.
That's the pink bin. That's the trash bin. So I'll just say that I'm not trying to blow this bill up, and I get that you guys need to get more money for doing this service. I personally think the bottle bill has run its course, and I do think we should get rid of this deposit, but I'm not gonna try to advocate for that now. This was passed in 1970 with a nickel then, before people recycled, before we had universal recycling, and we're standing up a secondary redundant recycling stream, segregating out valuable resources, and with a very costly secondary system, we're propping up more. I'm not a fan of the continued use of the nickel deposit. But that being said, I think that's where you were alluding to on this. The alternative would be just to stop collecting these things because people are just throwing them in the blue bins.
It is the same argument I made when this last bottle bill was there, is that I just think about now expanding this even more and about having two systems that effectively do the same thing. We want to recycle these materials. And by expanding this, we already have trucks on the road picking up these blue bins. We have people going to the local dump, recycling them. And I don't want to expand this out. And even, with the 5 cents, yes, I understand. I'm paying 5 cents and then it gets thrown into the blue bin. That 5 cents then goes to fund clean water. So at the end of the day, for me, currently as it stands, not the worst thing in the world that I'm recycling my bottles, not getting the money back, because right now, I don't have time to go, A, find a place that's open, B, wait in line to put my things in there. And if I'm spending $10 in diesel to go get back $10 in deposits
And your Saturday morning.
and my Saturday one.
Okay,
But that's another day, another dollar.
this is the bill. At this point in the session, we're not going to get rid of it. It is, I think, a step back and learn from the problems with the last bill, which kind of bit off more than it could chew. I think it's proposing to give some help
It
to
is.
redemption folks who
It increases their compensation in the short term, requires that they have fair compensation in the long term. Creates a grant program to help the PRO, the manufacturers and distributors, set up, improve collection, improve convenience, and then improve modernized technology. And
And what we're talking, the manufacturers, we're talking
beverages,
Pepsi, who owns, and Coke, who own. Almost anything you can drink is probably owned by 5, maybe big corporations. Not a whole lot.
Well, one of the questions in my mind is, what is the cost of this whole redemption process? If you took that cost and you applied it to the individual containers.
This is the
Now, right now,
lowest cost.
we we have the same amount on a deposit that was collected in 1973. And that, 5 cents, today's dollars is valued as 38 cents. That's what we're actually paying in real dollars. And then you look at what the markup is, in terms of manufacturer being made whole as part of the process. And then that enormous cost associated with the pickup, delivery, and movement between various parties in the process, plus the cost that you have as a consumer having to handle it, with, as I think Senator Hardy mentioned, that fact that we have various people come to our houses for various purposes, such as trash collection and so on, that we could use for that purpose, and we don't. We have to, I myself, to get rid of bottles, I've got a 6 or 7 mile round trip to do that, and then waiting in line. And, all of these are costs associated with this process. And you start comparing them to what the benefit is, since we have a collection process that exists that most of us pay for anyway, for bottles and other glass materials.
But it's also.
Is this worth the effort? It's really-
Recycling and reusing. And I think we were supplying the polar fleece industry, which is made out of recycled plastic bottles. And when we were going, and it was a number of years ago, we first talked about recycling water bottles, for putting a deposit on them. The recycling centers came in and said, that's what's paying for all the cardboard we can't get rid of. Now, those markets changed. The testimony last time was it's kind of switched out. Yeah, maybe we could do it. Just don't make us do wine bottles, which no one wants. But this one is infrastructure, so it will make it more convenient. Not everybody will, but more will. And it will get some money to the the redemption centers, which they need. And it will get us in the process of seeing if we can set up a manufacturer's group that is responsible for taking this all back, because in the end, they're the ones that are making the process. You don't have ice cream.
No, it's right out there. I couldn't.
Well, Jane isn't here.
Terry made it.
Terry.
Terry got our sons.
For the
There's
pages.
still
Yeah.
plenty more.
Okay.
Take it.
First,
Take a break.
we vote.
So I just want to say, so I'm on the Senate Natural Resources Committee, and I really wish that Senator Beck was here. He is the reporter of this bill in the Senate Natural Resources Committee, and I think that he became more and more convinced. I cannot speak for him, but enough so that he wanted to, he was advocating for the increase in the handling fee, and wanted to report the bill because he felt strongly about supporting it. But you should talk to him. I can't speak for
We are
him.
going,
But I
to
just,
go to our sections.
well, wait, I just want
Yeah.
to respond to some of the things that were said. We took extensive testimony. We worked on this for weeks. Shane slept in the committee room because he was there every day. And one of the things that the bottle redemption system does that the blue bin system does not do is it produces clean and much more valuable products. And they are much more likely to be reused again and actually recycled. And they are actually more valuable. So you can get a much, much higher return from the plastic, the glass, and the metal that you get from the redemption process than you can from the blue bin process. So much so that a few years ago, one of our recycling centers in the state, I believe in your district, Senator, actually dumped glass in the environment because it was not worth anything to them, and they had to pay a fine for doing it in the end. But the materials that come out of the redemption system are much more valuable than the materials that go into the blue bins that are often not recycled. And so that is one of the benefits of the system. It hasn't been updated in years. We've tried and tried and tried. This bill is taking a much more narrow approach, trying to fix the system we have and put some investments in it, create a producer responsibility organization, which is what we have for a lot of other materials in our state. Matt Chapman is a super expert on these. He's always been talking to us about how we can recycle something else through a PRO. And so I think it's not an alien system. There are many other states that do it. And in fact, many other countries that have versions of PROs. And this is what we need to do to actually to help save a system that is really, really popular and beloved by Vermonters.
I'm gonna vote for this, but I just have to say, I don't know if a value add of cleaner is outweighing the cost of this secondary system. I just want to question that.
Okay,
And the environmental impact. It was the environmental. Yeah, we talked about that.
that was the argument with water bottles. In
I
fact,
think all the
Senator
trucks drive
Benny
around
came in
Stores.
with a bunch of water bottles. He picked it up on the side of the road and put one on each one of our desks. Before he was told that props were illegal in the Senate, and he then had to pick up the filthy water bottles because I wasn't touching
who
the
did-
one on my desk.
Mark,
Rather make this cleaner, so.
Joe Bennett. Joe ran up, his first year, he ran up against a couple rules.
Mark did it too. Mark brought in trash bags full of them. He shook them on the floor.
that sounds like Mark. That's why I thought you were talking about.
No, this has been gone over. I'm gonna hold us to our
Section?
section.
All right, well then I can't speak because mine is not.
Because
related to
that
my section.
has decided that this is a place that should go forward.
Okay.
We can look at the fees. If people want to put an amendment together to abolish the bottle bill, you can do so on the floor of the Senate.
Yeah.
Okay. Our.
So I'm gonna move on
we have
to your
about
next-
8 more bills.
Your next section, that's your section. And that would be on page 20 of the bill. And it is how A&R is reimbursed. So most EPR programs have a requirement that the PRO, the entity subject to the requirements, pay A&R a fee for the A&R cost of overseeing the system. A&R is moving to a new way to do that instead of it being a set fee, which can often be pretty high. They're asking to have the PRO reimburse them. It's on page 17, it's not on page 20, I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
And and that will be part of the budget process. So A&R will develop effectively what it will cost them, an estimate of what it will cost them per year. They let the PRO comment. They submit to the General Assembly and the governor what it's gonna
It'll
cost.
be in the state budget.
Yeah, and then as part of the budget, it will be approved by you, and that's what A&R will be reimbursed for the administration of the system. So that's page 16 to 17. Page 20. This is as part of the plan. Once the PRO sets up its organization and running a plan, the first year plus from March of 2029 to July of 2030, they're going to be paying the points of redemption 4 1/2 cents per container. That sunsets after 1 year. This is to like transition from the existing system to the new system. After that, compensation of the points of redemption will be done through negotiation between single points of redemption or groups of points of redemption. The next issue or fiscal issue is page 25. This is on the page 25, line 19, section 1533. All of these EPR programs have audit requirements. There's an operational requirement, like how is it operating, how well is it doing? And then there's a fiscal audit. The fiscal audit is on page 26. That begins October 1, 2030, and then looks at how well looks at the finances of the PRO, provides an analysis of its expenditures, the number of beverage containers collected, and amount of unpaid deposits. And then Secretary shall and the audit results. Right. And so that's part of every one of your EPR programs. And then the next changes are about the funding of the implementation grants. Those are on page 33. For 4 fiscal years, beginning in fiscal year 2030, money will be transferred from the Clean Water Fund to the Waste Management Assistance Fund for deposit in the Solid Waste Management Assistance account for grants to the PRO to assist them in implementing, basically standing up the new stewardship plan. And so you will see page 33, line 6 through 9, $1 million in 2030. Similarly, $1 million in 2031, 750 in 2032 and 2033. And those go on page 34, going on to page 35 into the Waste Management Assistance Fund. You'll see on page 35, line 17, A&R enters a grant agreement with the PRO for bottle bill implementation. It's for 4 years, the 4 years that you just looked at, and reimburse the cost of equipment and improvements to infrastructure documented by the PRO in this plan. And
Is that transfer an allowable use for Clean Water Fund?
that's up to you, because it's an appropriation. There's no limitations in the Clean Water Fund about how it's not like the Petroleum Cleanup Fund, where that fund says don't ever use this for anything else besides the petroleum cleanup.
Or the higher ed?
Right.
Well, the one thing we had with the water was the EP, we didn't, isn't that the fund, we didn't have a source of funding for
Which one?
clean water?
You
Was that the
didn't
one
for, you had not a sufficient
Yes,
source that EPA said in order to approve the TMDLs in the state, because TMDLs need to basically have a reasonable expectation of success.
and we found it in here, I just don't remember what it was.
Well,
But there is we can't,
There's several. There's property transfer tax surcharge, there's the sheets.
Yeah.
And there's a percentage of the rooms, meals and tax.
it's percentage that we came up with that year.
I remember that fight, but this is the sheets, this is like,
Yes.
that's why this is being justified as moving it from Clean Water Fund, is that that's part of what the
These
issue.
sheets are going in, so we're really not transferring
Yeah,
$1 million of sheets into the fund, we're holding them back.
yeah, and I remember that was Anthony Polina,
That
that
was
idea to do
Anthony's
the sheets into the Clean Water Fund.
Yes, and it was like a noon amendment at this time of year on the floor that no one was ready for.
So,
One of those days.
I mean, there's always been tension about the use of the sheets for clean water, especially from those entities that would prefer to use for solid waste. And,
Yeah.
one of the things that, one of the last revenue thing in the bill, or the fiscal aspect of the bill is page 36. There's just a clear cap on the amount of the grants that can be made in each fiscal year, because the solid waste management assistance is greater than the total of these. So you don't want it to read like the agency can dip into other sources in that account and use those, because there's competing interest for those funds in those accounts.
If there's money, there will be competing interest.
And then page 37, section 7, that's the section that strikes the just over a year handling fee for the points of redemption in the plan. And that's it for the bottle bill. There are a couple of sections at the end of the bill related to the household hazardous products program. I won't get into the kind of mechanics of what is changing there. One of the things that is relevant to your jurisdiction is that the way that they will be reimbursed for their cost is the same way I explained that they will be reimbursed, A&R will be reimbursed. They'll go through the budget process, opportunity for the PRO to comment. You would have to approve it as part of their budget.
Okay.
And
Questions for one?
I was expecting a lively conversation, but that was a little livelier than.
You want more?
Maybe
Yeah, I do.
always fun.
Shall I make a motion?
I gotta go through them.
No, we have about 5 more witnesses. Thank you, Michael.
No, I appreciate it.
Tell us what it's going to cost. They. Okay.
Temperament joint.
Sorry.
What went on? Oh, the best. The best.
So I'm gonna hop right into the fiscal impacts
Okay.
section of the fiscal note. And the primary fiscal impact are those transfers from the Clean Water Fund to the Solid Waste Management Assistance account of the Waste Management Assistance Fund in fiscal years 2030 through 2033. As Mike mentioned, right, the amount would be up to $1 million in fiscal years 2030 and 2031, and then 750,000 in fiscal years 2032 and 2033.
So if the clean water fund. Or if it should be in trouble. Yeah, started rushing notes, which. Who knows by 20.
Oh, that's it.
We could cease the transfer. The power remains. In our hands as long as. People are blue betting. Their deposits. Okay.
Yes, and the clean water budget is a part of kind of the appropriations process
Yeah.
as well, so you would be able to
So
use
this is all
this
going
against.
into appropriations. All right.
Yep. So yes, that total of the $1,750,000 is $3.5 million in total over those 4 fiscal years. The other part we wanted to mention is that if the new system of container the PRO is effective and redemption centers are more accessible and the rate of redemption increases, you may see a reduction in S-sheets remitted to the Clean Water Fund. We did not do a forecast for that, given that the current rate of redemption isn't substantially different from the initial goal of 75%, but did want to note if you are reaching the goal of 80%, when it starts in July 1, 2033, you would start to see S-sheet revenue decrease a bit. And I do have data on S-sheet revenue for the forecast into 27 that's starting in fiscal year 2023. And it is roughly level over that time period, or estimated to be roughly flat. The other piece is talking through the 2 possibilities in the bill. If A&R is responsible, serves as the PRO is unable to form by manufacturers can't form the PRO. A&R would form that responsibility to be able to be reimbursed for their costs in doing so. We'll note that the scale is quite different. Matt Chapman provided some information for us. For me, in the current, where they're providing oversight of the system, they've allocated 0.1 FTE. For that activity, if they were responsible for administering and serving as the PRO, the cost would be quite a bit larger than that. They would also be responsible for paying out the initial handling fees. They would be reimbursed by manufacturers for those fees, but they'd be responsible So just want to note that these scales are quite a bit different.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think the Senate Natural Resources increased the recycling market development assessment, which from 10 to 25%. So given that that is intended to really encourage the deposit initiators to form their own PRO, seeing that as the more likely outcome, but wanted to flag both possibilities. The other piece is that DLL, since it functions as its own PRO, they effectively, they are paying the handling fees, and they work with TOMRA, they contract out with TOMRA. And so by increasing the handling fee for DLL from 3.5 to 4.5 cents, they would pay out approximately $35,000 more in fiscal year in handling fees. And so given that their cost for administration of revenue and costs are in the Liquor Control Enterprise Fund, by paying more in handling fees, there'd be a little bit less money that they would have available in the Liquor Control Enterprise Fund, but DLL is able to retain unclaimed deposits for liquor. And so it's not, right now, I would say the amount of money they're receiving from unclaimed liquor bottle deposits roughly covers their administration of the program. It's in similar magnitudes. It might be slightly different when you increase the handling fees.
Okay.
And finally, this did want to note that DLL is working with TOMRA. The contract is relatively long-term, but if the PRO that is formed under the bill offers some cost savings, is a better deal than who they're currently working for, there may be some changes to their costs, but hard to know, given that we don't know what the system's going to look like. I am happy to run through some general high-level figures on S sheets and how they fit into the Clean Water Fund, or it can be background information that you create in the fiscal note.
Questions for Ted?
And then, table 2 shows how SGs kind of fit within the broader revenue sources for the Clean Water Fund. For fiscal year 27, they're $3.8 million of the 31.
Now I get why the rooms and meals tax was so important. These sheets become much less important in the overall scheme of the water. Yeah. Not quite de minimis, but close. Okay. Committee questions? Okay, we don't for Ted. I've got one, two, three, 4 people, and we're already behind, Mr. Chairman. Can you come
Sure.
another time?
Oh, yeah, no, it's not, no problem.
Unless you represent some of these people, because I'm gonna have to say, keep it down to a minute or two, because this would not help. Go from there, or if you're all gonna say approximately the same thing, agree that one of you can talk.
I think we have different points, so
You're brought
I'll
up.
be happy to.
Just tell us who you are. Until you know the routine.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again. Shane Switzer, from Lindenberg Redemption. I just have something I'm gonna read here. Public speaking is not my thing, so, I'm gonna read through this here. I'm speaking on behalf of Redemption Centers and the people who operate them every day here in Vermont. One thing that I think it's important to recognize at the start is the bottle bill redemption system works. We've had some discussion today about whether it works or not, or whether it should remain. Vermont consistently has one of the stronger container return systems in the country, with redemption rates believed to be somewhere in the 65 to 70% range. By comparison, states without strong redemption systems often see dramatically lower recycling rates. And as an example, in Massachusetts, their recycling, the return rate is 25 to 35%. And so, as Senator Harvey mentioned, we heard testimony in Senate Natural Resources about the clean glass that we get out of this, and that it can be easily reused. I don't know the numbers, so I'm not going to quote them exactly, but just some really high numbers of the glass that can be used and such. The success rate does not happen accidentally. It comes because there's a real physical infrastructure behind the system that are redemption centers. We have, we employ Vermonters that sort, store, we have that run the day-to-day operations to make this possible. The challenge is that the cost of the operating or of operating that infrastructure has changed dramatically over the last 20 years, while the handling fee has remained unchanged. And meanwhile, a 20-ounce Pepsi that cost $1.09 in 2007, which is the last time that we got a raise or an increase, $1.09 in 2007, it's $2.99 today. That's a 174% increase. Same to be said for other types of beverages. We won't get into that, but aluminum prices are up since then, about 54%. At the same time, redemption centers have been forced to, our costs are rising in every single direction. I won't get into those, but we can all imagine insurance, labor, all that good stuff. I want to acknowledge something directly, that none of us want higher prices for the consumer, if that's where this, this increase goes. Our store is 20 miles from the New Hampshire border, and we compete on pricing every single day. We understand the pressure that Vermont consumers are under as far as passing those costs along to them, if that's where it ultimately goes. And we're talking about the biggest companies in the world here that are the deposit initiators. And the reality is that we're at the point where the system itself is under significant long-term pressure if adjustments are not made. The question before the legislature is simply not whether a beverage could cost 1 cent more. The larger question is whether Vermont wants to maintain a redemption system that has been nationally successful, or whether we allow financial pressures to continue building until redemption centers are forced to reduce their services, hours, or even close altogether. We had extensive testimony in Senate Natural Resources about redemption centers are this close. We are not. I'll give you an example of our particular numbers in a second. There's a few other points that I had, but I'll in the spirit of time, I'll just I'll close with, these are our numbers for last year. Last year we redeemed 4.4 million containers, and we lost $2,900 last year. And just if we separate, we have a store, and the store is a whole different story, but we also have a redemption center that's attached to it. Just talking redemption, what this 1 cent increase means to us is $44,000 next year. That's $846 a week. We're not asking for this thing to be a huge, we don't need huge windfall here. We just need to be able to be sustainable over the next several years. And what this bill offers is some modernization to the system to make it a little more efficient. It gives us an increase in the short term, and the redemption system employs a lot of Vermonters that are possibly vulnerable Vermonters. It's a job that some people can come to and that maybe not employed otherwise and such. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any. I tried to be pretty.
Do you have one of the sorting machines that people, or are you still?
So we don't, no.
Okay.
There's
So you
one
still have individuals back
storage by
there
hand.
sorting or packing or, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And so what this bill does is a little bit of there's some money in there that get us some equipment, maybe that's some of the higher producing stores, or the higher ones with higher throughput.
Okay.
Get some equipment there.
I'm gonna do Senator Bueller.
I know, it's been so quiet today.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for your testimony. I'm lucky. I live in Burlington. We have a redemption center right where I do my grocery shopping next door. And over the years, I've built a great relationship with my bottle team, bottle guys, and decided a long time ago, I just give them my bottles. And if there's a fundraiser going on, I say, give it to the fundraiser, if not, keep it. And they are so thankful. And so I just want to share my appreciation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. There's a lot of that, a lot of that. We have multiple bins that for different organizations you can donate to, and they do well. So
I'm just curious, so this bill lays out process for, you know, you have X amount of redemption centers in
Yes.
downtowns and towns and whatever, so. Last year you had 4.4 million cans, bottles that you touched. What happens when the competition grows, all your overhead stays the same, and you get 3 million bottles?
and so there's a lot of places where there's redemption deserts in the state. I think that this bill is designed to combat that. In my county, there's plenty of redemption, if you will. And you know, that's not to say that somebody couldn't open one.
Yeah.
What I do guarantee is right now, nobody's gonna open a redemption center because there's zero, margin in it at all. So when they crop up some more, I think this bill is designed, to prop them up in places where there's big deserts. And I think this area is one of them where there's, but
Like Senator Gulick, there was a couple towns up, there was an awesome redemption center, Quonset Hut.
you know,
Guy just did redemption.
Yeah.
Had a great relationship with him, and he would actually travel out to places that were bigger producers of redemption.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he closed up shop too, and that was my go-to. So that's finally going.
I think a lot of redemption centers are at the point where they've made every efficiency that they can possibly realize to their personal situation, and it's like, it's here. I mean, losing $2,900 a year. I need to look at reallocating that space. I'd be crazy
Yeah.
to, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a for-profit business.
Yeah.
There's other things that I can do with that space possibly to
Yeah.
be, you know, and it's a community service that we're offering as well. I mean, that's part of it. We're not trying to get rich. We're
Right,
just trying
but you're
to
not a charity.
offer
Do you think a lot more of the little bins that you put them in and count them will pop up? Like our big center in town has switched to that type of model. So do you think when the bottle boy?
So there's possibly some RVMs that'll come out of it on the reverse vending machines that you put one in at a time. A lot of the grocery stores and the big retailers have those. I think one of the things that's gonna come out of this bill is, they're talking about bag drops where you drop your bag off and you tag it to some extent and it gets put in an account, that, you know, an app or something
Mhm.
that you can access the money, you know, maybe a few days later.
No.
But it seems like a kind of maybe a possibly convenient way to make use of people that do that. So do that in other states, in Maine and such, at the grocery store, you can.
Maine. 20, 30 years ago, in the grocery store, I first learned people could return wine bottles. But they had an extensive setup, so I'm sure they're even more, but those, what do one of those machines cost?
And so there's lots of talk about that, and as an individual, if I go try to buy one, it's tens of thousands, possibly 20, 30,
Now,
40,000.
30 was sticking in my head
For
from
an
one of the
individual.
redemption centers that came in. So there's a significant investment, and at 3.5 cents a can, it's gonna take a lot of cans to pay off. And if you're running in a loss.
It doesn't make sense at all,
it doesn't- Yeah, you
right?
gotta have the money to pay for it. Okay,
So I think that this bill accomplishes some of that, so I think that.
okay.
Yeah, we had a lot of testimony about these machines.
Would those RVMs put you out of business with what you do, or would you think you might just put them in where you have that space where you're collecting?
So there's a couple of things, when we talk about machinery, there's a couple of things in the market. The RVMs that when we refer to an RVM, we're referring to a reverse vending machine that is a single serve, like you see at Shaw's over here or at Price Chopper or something. And it's one bottle at a time. Not the best way to redeem a bottle. If you have a lot, you're out, you're not doing it. And so, and then there's also there's been lots of talk of in this bill, this process is some bulk feed machines that, you can come and dump bags into And that will make it a lot easier. That if you go to the beverage baron and there's a line there, it's gonna go a lot quicker. These machines count hundreds of cans per minute. And so, we're, you know, we welcome that for sure. I mean, that's part of the modernization of this bill.
Thank
Thank you for having me. I
Got-
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Deeply? She's on Zoom. She's on Zoom, okay. And then
I am. Thank you, Chair Cummings, members of the committee. My name is Bree Deatley. I am a consultant with Breezeway Consulting, which is my own firm in Somerville, Massachusetts. I have two roles. One is I am a consultant to the Beverage Association of Vermont, which represents the non-alcoholic beverage distributors in the state. Also manage the commingling program. I have managed the commingling program for 15 years, since just after its inception in 2008. So I'm going to kind of draw on both of those experiences to have a few remarks about the bill, where it stands, how it has changed, and what our problem is with some of the most recent changes. We were supportive of the bill as it came across from the House. Senate Natural Resources made some changes, which we also supported, but at the last minute, the additional handling fee pushed us into an opposed position, and I want to talk a little bit about why that is so. First of all, sorry?
Please continue.
Oh, sure, sorry. So first, let me clarify who our members are and who the deposit initiators are that we're talking about. I've heard a lot of conversation about the biggest companies in the world. That's not who initiates deposits on beverages. The local distributor is the company that initiates deposits on beverages. So we're talking about Coke Northeast up in Colchester. We're talking about Pepsi Burlington, and we're talking about Pepsi Brattleboro. We're talking about Polar Beverages. We're talking about Farrell, Baker, until recently Calmont, and all of the small microbreweries and distributors in the state. That's who initiates and pays for this system. The money doesn't come from Coca-Cola in Atlanta or Anheuser-Busch or, you know, in St. Louis. It's coming from local companies. And that gets to the core issue that we have with this revision of the bill, which is this additional penny handling fee, which is going to add to we currently pay collectively, the distributors in Vermont pay $7 million a year in handling fees. That's simply the 3.5 or 4 cents that goes to the redemption centers and retailers to cover part of their costs for handling containers. The distributors also incur costs to pay TOMRA and others as pickup agents to go out and pick up and process those containers. So that's not the only cost of the system. It is the main cost of the system. The additional penny that got added in Senate Natural Resources is going to last for about 2.5 years until the program comes online. That's going to add about $1.8 million to the cost of running this system. That $1.8 million on top of the $7.1 million is going to ultimately be borne by Vermont consumers. Our concern here is that we are supportive of this bill because of the innovations and the ability that this creates for the system as a whole to be sustainable, to be more updated, to be more efficient. That nothing has really changed in the bottle bill since 1972, except for the institution of the commingling program, which the beverage industry voluntarily created and supported back in 2008. We incurred pretty significant costs and incur costs every year to make that commingling system work. And what that system does is allow that 85% of the volume of returns that come back every year comes through a system that requires no more sorting than simply distributing by container type and size. So all that Shane and other redemption centers are doing are separating the aluminum, the glass, and the plastic by size category. They don't care if it's a Coke, a Pepsi, a Sprite, whatever brand of beer it might be, all those go in together. That is saving the redemption centers and has saved redemption centers significant amounts of effort. It saves space, it saves time, and it's made the system much more efficient. Our support for this bill, and in fact, going back to my engagement with Senator Bray when he put together the original working group to come up with a compromise like this that ultimately arrived at this producer responsibility structure for the program was not just to say, let's throw more money at the system. It was to say, let's see what we're doing in the system that doesn't make sense, and let's see if we can make it any better. Senator Hardy's heard me say this a couple of times when I've been before her committee. Vermont has the least automated redemption system probably in the world, certainly in the United States. Of the roughly 180 million containers that came back last year, about 98% of those were touched by people, and not touched by people once, but touched by people 5 and 6 times between the time they're delivered to a retailer or a redemption center and they're ultimately turned into, sold to be processed into new products. With automation, that is reduced dramatically. And the idea of putting a PRO in place as we've outlined in proposals to ANR and discussions with Matt and others, we've outlined a proposal to increase the use of to provide technology through this organization that will allow for bulk sorting of this material so that no one has to handle it other than dumping the bags into the container where the barcodes can be read, the containers can be scanned. We know exactly what's coming back, and the material can be handled for a lot less money than having people individually sort it, look at it, throw it into a bag, and then have it handled 5 more times before it makes it into the recycling system. So we're trying to make those investments.
Okay, excuse me.
I
The jurisdiction of this committee really are the fees.
understood.
Okay, and we are now about a half hour over time. So if you can get just really concise.
I think that the concise point, and it's where I'm going here. The concise point is that the additional handling fee that was added by Senate Natural Resources is going to add up to something like $5 million over the time between now and when we implement this program.
Okay.
The money that's going to come out of the Clean Environment Fund to reimburse the industry for making investments in this bulk sorting technology, which is going to drive down costs and burdens on the redemption centers, is $3.5 million. So we're going to have to pay more in terms of higher handling fees than we're going to get back for the investments that we make. The other thing is that you're going to be giving redemption centers a 29% raise with this 1 cent handling fee increase. That is going to undermine the fundamental concept behind this entire proposal. If they get a 29% raise and continue to do exactly what they're doing today, there's no way that they're going to negotiate with a producer responsibility organization to implement pretty dramatic changes at their facility, potentially remodeling their facilities, putting $175,000 piece of equipment in their facility. That's going to be very disruptive. It's going to be paid for by the PRO. But why talk to the PRO? Why deal with the PRO when you've just been given a 29% increase? So not only do the finances not work out with this system, not only does it cost consumers a lot more money in the meantime, you're undermining the whole principle of the reform element of this bill in the first place. And that's really our concern here. It's critical, I think, to understand that 3/4 of the containers that come back in the state come back through retailers like Shane's operation. Shane sells beverages. So do 3/4 of the facilities that handle empties. They make money selling those beverage containers. The reason that the bottle bill was structured the way it was initially without a handling fee is that both distributors and retailers were sharing the responsibility because both were making money on the sale of those products. What we've done over time is increase handling fees to compensate people for running facilities, when in fact it's only the independent redemption centers that are reliant on the handling fees solely to cover their costs. Surprisingly, about 1/4 of the returns to those independent redemption centers have been rock solid. It's been 1/4 the whole time. It's been very steady. I see the roster of redemption centers, and yes, there have been some closures, but every time I see one close, almost always see somebody buy it and reopen it. So we're just asking that the original intent of this bill be upheld. We're asking that you not increase this cost on consumers and on distributors and ultimately on consumers in the short term, because you're going to undermine the fundamental purpose of this bill in the first place. We're not going to get the cooperation. We're not going to be able to implement the kinds of reforms we need if that handling fee increase goes into effect.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Mr. Sherman, can you do this in, we'll only be a half hour behind if you can do it in 2 minutes.
All right, I will try. Thank you very much. Nick Sherman, Wayne Nine Public Affairs, here on behalf of the Vermont Wholesale Beverage Association. I'm going to refer to them as the beer distributors.
Okay.
And I guess I'd like to start by saying that, you know, beer distributors are a key part of both in terms of the product itself and the bottle bill of this system. And we share that with the redemption centers, who are often the retail stores that sell the product. So the same market pressures, you know, that they're dealing with are also affecting the beer distributors industry. And I would like to highlight that, you know, the Vermont beer distributors are Vermont businesses. We are not the biggest businesses in the world, Sparrow Baker.
You aren't Pepsi, you just.
We are Vermont businesses who employ Vermonters, you know, members of the community. And I just want to be clear, because I think the point that I want to leave you with, that in imposing this 1 cent fee increase, it will be borne by these Vermont businesses. And I just want to make sure that that's kind of the key point you take away. A little bit of quick context. The underlying bill, you know, we've been not opposed to it and going along. I will say that there has been great concern the whole time about the viability and the success of it going forward in the long term. You know, those costs and the mechanisms are not incredibly well spelled out and not well understood by the beer distributors, and they're nervous about whether or not this underlying bill will be successful and what the costs in the long term will be. However, because it has been this sort of delicate balance between the state and the stakeholders to try to move this forward with the system that, you know, we understand needs to be reformed, we've been going along with it. That said, when the 1 cent increase was put in, that really, for reasons Ms. Deatley highlighted, adds to that concern view. I have more here, but I think, you know, we're concerned. I would suggest that a better path forward would be to this underlying bill. The PRO system lays out a process where the stakeholders get together and they figure out what the costs are and run the system based on that. There's negotiated handling fee down. Instead of this 1 cent increase now, I would suggest getting A&R to form a task force immediately. Start looking at this question, where there are cost needs in the redemption centers. You know, look at that right away. If the distributors need to be part of funding that, let's have the conversation. But we don't really understand the detail about where the cost needs are. They say they're there, but what are they? If we can understand those, maybe we can more strategically fund what is needed, instead of having just this blanket fee that will be a $1.8 million increase to the
It
industry.
hasn't been increased in a long time.
Sure. But, I'll finish by saying, you know, the distributors cannot put that cost in consumers. It will pass on to our customers. I have to imagine it will pass on to consumers. Just want to be clear about that. Anyway, we're concerned about this fee increase, and, you know, we can take that into consideration.
That's a penny a can, right?
The increase is correct.
It's 20% increase, right, over what it currently is.
3.5 to 4.5. Like that.
There are very few products that have not gone up. It's a penny a can. I would settle for any of them that just went up a penny. Last 7 years,
2009.
2009. Well, more than that. So, yeah. I mean, labor costs have gone up since then. Everything has gone up since then. Okay. Okay. Committee questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not gonna finish this one today. I'm gonna go on to a couple, I hope we can. We have, Bradley is still here. Okay, I think we have reached agreement on 928. Yeah, Brad has drafted. Michael, do you have anything to add?
Not for 915, I'm here on 928, I drafted at least one of them.
Share my screen, but, so there's two amendments before the committee to 928, that we went over yesterday. And so the changes, from the amendments that you saw yesterday is just deleted language. So we're looking at the PFAS, unavoidable use for PFAS treated PFAS containers.
Yeah, that's what that is.
And so that is draft 1.1. And so the lead-in language here, this is amending the report of the Committee on Center and Natural Resources because we're amending their amendment to the underlying House bill. But the remainder of the amendment is the same as you saw yesterday.
Okay, so we did the big PFAS containers. We included Senator Brennan's amendment in here.
If we approve both of these, it'll be one amendment though from the committee, right?
I think it'll be two because it's amending two different underlying documents. So it's amending the House bill and then it's also amending the report of this for the Committee on Senate Natural Resources.
Oh, because our report was not a strike.
That's exactly right.
Got it.
Oh,
I actually tried to draft it as one.
separate, okay,
And so our
Separate.
no. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so the first one I have is 1.1.
That is correct.
And that is the following fees. That is essentially Senator Brennan's amendment.
Yep.
And we struck out that duplicative. Oh,
Yeah. So it was structured, it's structured as a strike all today. It's structured as a
This is-
adding.
so we aren't adding a new O.
That's correct. Yeah.
Cover the old O. Okay, because they were the same.
And so this bill amends the underlying, the as passed by version of the House.
Right. And this was, these are the fees they are presently charging.
That is correct.
We are not touching anything that said they can up a big game fee and report back within a year. It's necessary, that's in out of the underlying bill.
That is correct. That is in the underlying bill and that's not being touched here.
Okay, so committee, what is your pleasure with this first one?
I'm fine with both, but so will our committee report, will we have two committee reports?
I think that might be up to the secretary, but I think so. I
We
think so.
will be doing two amendments to the bill.
I don't want to.
So
Brennan did
I think we will, the underlying bill, the bill on the floor will be the House version, which will be amended by Natural Resources, right? And then we will do further amendment to that. I don't think we're adding two, right? Not striking.
That's exactly right.
They're both framed right now as the Committee on Finance, this committee amendments.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
We are, so the underlying bill will be the House bill because no one's done a strike all. And it will be amended.
That's what I understand. What's your pleasure of which one to take up first?
I'm looking at the first one on the agenda, which is the one we've gone over,
The fees.
the fees, yeah. Senator Brennan,
I would move favorably as one of our committee amendments with committee amendments draft number 1.1 dated 5/20 2026 at 10:17 a.m., also known as the Brennan Amendment regarding fees.
Okay. Is the Senator Chittenden has moved that we approve draft number 1.1 to H289.
928, H 928,
Page 928.
H 928.
H928. And those, that is the addition of the fees that Fish and Wildlife is presently setting without legislative approval. The education bill, one of the tax bills takes that out and tells them to report back for approval. This is their report back for approval. These are existing fees, and it's just making them totally and completely illegal. Any new fees will come in, like access, will have to come into the legislature like all other fees. So this, these are the fees that they are presently charging for these activities.
And this is to the underlying bill as received from the House.
Yes.
So screen.
The underlying bill. All right, is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye. Okay, all those opposed. I see that it's 601. And I'm going to do the second amendment.
Are you ready for a motion?
This is the fluorine treated containers, the big ones that there's no viable substitute for at this point.
This is the one we forgot to add to the bill,
Yes,
basically.
it's another, but larger Scrivener's error.
Yeah,
This is amending their report.
yeah.
And actually, Senate Health and Welfare did this. We dealt with large fluorine containers at one point in the last couple.
Well, this is saying that gives them more time because they still haven't found an alternative.
Alternative. That's probably extending it down. You have moved that?
I would move favorably draft number 1.1 of H 928, amending the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Energy report. And that draft is dated 5/15/2026 at 10:50 p.m.
Okay. The further discussion on that amendment? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. 601 is how I'm saying. I'm going to check this stuff. Everybody, but.
You want me to report it?
Well, we need,
Oh, we need to
do
vote
we,
now.
yeah, I think we need to vote favorably on the bill as amended.
Okay.
Senator Chittenden, did you make that?
Move favorably H 928 as amended, both the underlying bill from the House and the Committee on Natural Resources and Energies.
Sure.
All right.
Got another sheet? So
I don't think so. I think you did this all. One.
I'm just gonna say this, because it's 2 forwards, right? Apparently,
I don't know what this is.
it's gonna be.
I think
Well,
you,
Low graded?
I think honestly, the secretary is probably gonna ask you for a substitute amendment where you strike all of the natural resources.
Oh.
Or,
Do a strike all for both of them?
Or you people can do that.
what I'm gonna do is
Oh,
I'm gonna go upstairs and Bradley and I will talk to the secretary and we'll figure out the format. You're gonna see what you just approved, but it might be in a different format.
Just in one.
okay.
It might make more sense if you're presenting the natural resources to just do a substitute amendment.
Okay, I mean, I can report whatever, because I've
Okay.
been following both of these closely.
Mostly. So let's vote this bill as amended, right? And then, and that's pending edits by the secretary.
Well, you have to deliver it to him anyway, so we'll go talk to
We'll
him.
go talk to
If
him.
he says redraft it, we'll redraft it and we'll bring it down to you.
Okay, then we'll do a cursory. Okay, it's been moved that we approve age. So what is this? Age 928 as amended. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. 601, Senator Beckett is missing. Okay, good, we're on a roll.
Okay.
We've only got 3 more bills. We have a committee of conference.
You guys just tell me
Thank you,
what's.
Brandon.
Okay, next. We're still a half hour behind.
Who's still having to do that?
Oh, we're only 15 minutes behind.
Okay.
And 4, I've got, miscellaneous. Yeah,
Tuesday at 4, miscellaneous matters.
okay, then today is the,
Right now?
at 4.
Oh, at 4. Oh,
No, I think they moved that to Tuesday morning. I don't
that's
think so.
miscellaneous press. You don't have.
Oh, no, you don't.
And it's Fridays, I'm sure. So it's not us with that.
So you.
Yes,
Don't mess with Friday.
So. All right, no, well, then we could slow down.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Keep our foot in the
I
gravel.
give you a break.
Did you get the peanut? It's veg and then I.
All right, we're waiting for Ellen to watch the guy.
So Ellen did get that amendment to me, so I sent it to Charlotte. It's just 2 lines.
Okay.
And it's not exactly what Greg recommended, but it's close. So.
Okay, if he hadn't seen it, I just saw it.
Yeah. We're taking a break.
No, we're waiting for Ellen, so it's not a formal break. Don't go very far.
I don't. You missed me for photo this morning with the stuff for the, you were in the meeting.
No, I was in the emergency room at the hospital meeting, no. No, I think that's. It was around 4:30. It was stocks. I'll just slow down. Oh my God, it was not. It was like fine. So it's now better. Probably begin with there's a fifth one. Oh, yes. Oh, you're ready either.
Are they spontaneous?
Nope. Already were always, they just have to.
I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I took that in here.
Like black, yeah, it's like that.
I mean, there's a fun work. No, I got.
I wasn't sure.
Charlotte.
And so I can maybe.
Yeah, you probably know why.
Always is. The, you know how the hospitals have this.
Just got done.
There's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Service.
Yeah.
That one, pretty much.
That was without.
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, I should just make sure. I went along, but I haven't. Oh, I thought maybe we're gonna make that. I was.
Yeah, she's gonna get me a sign. Yes, I've got about 5.
It's usually just move.
Yeah, so this is all Ellen.
Get her in here.
Good.
If you have, feel like finding that better.
I was gonna ask you to do her section.
You expand.
That's gonna do the ed section.
Which you have.
So that just gives me.
Now it's extension and.
Yeah.
Okay, does she know that?
I haven't told you. Someone would ask.
That's not false.
No, it's actually very limited.
Yeah. There. She's there. That's right.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's.
It's. Oh, I don't know.
Okay, you knew one, I think,
Don't
didn't talk about it, add it to the. Now we will, yeah, thank you very much.
Here, let's go. And there's 1, 2, 3 of us. And then somebody else. Ruth, before I forget,
Yes,
will you do the school construction section of the ed bill on the floor?
yes,
Okay,
absolutely,
since it's yours.
absolutely,
Seth
thank you.
is going to do, or whoever you assign, Seth is going to do the education section.
Okay,
And I'll do the money stuff,
perfect.
but you know that better than
That's school
anyone.
construction,
Yeah,
okay,
that-
cool, thank you.
That is gonna be Tuesday.
I know, I saw that. I did just talk to Ellen and Greg. And there's just a tiny tweak on my amendment. And then Greg is okay with it.
Okay.
And if the committee's okay, then we might be, okay, that would get me to yes. That's where the rest of the committee.
All right.
Otherwise, I'm happy to be no with all as well.
Wait, I'm sorry, which bill are we talking about?
This is the 248.
Ellen, there we go.
Portrait us all.
So Ellen, we're all gonna take a deep breath after the bottle. Then we're going to get on to this easy breath.
Yeah.
Okay, so this bill's section 1. This extends this, as it came to us, extends the sunset for 3 years, right?
Yes, Ellen Tchaikovsky, on to Legislative Council, H 527, the extension of the section 248 sunset.
And I think we had agreed on that yesterday, but Senator Hardy has some proposals.
Yes, oh, actually, is it posted now? Okay, okay, all right, it should be posted.
Can you share it? Can Ellen share it?
I can. So what you were just mentioning was I did provide the committee a draft, from the Committee of Finance that all it does is extend the sunset 3 years and it took out the study. However, Senator Hardy had another suggestion that she would like you all to contemplate.
Yeah, so my suggestion is on the website, and although there is going to be a tweak to it if you guys are amenable to this suggestion, just overall.
Is this another one of those comma things?
No, no, it's a bigger tweak. It's more substantive. It's not de minimis. It's limited in scope. It's limited, not de minimis.
It's under Senator Hardy.
Yeah, it's under my name, and I just, by way of explanation, I said I was concerned about this. I remained concerned. I still remain concerned because I've heard just from so many constituents who think this process doesn't work for them. I feel like there's not time to fix it right now. I am committed, as Senator Beck said, to looking at this more in the off session. I'm meeting with PUC and others to try to figure out, if there are necessary other changes. But for now, after committee yesterday, Greg Faber from PUC and I talked in the hall, and he made a suggestion that's similar to what I'm proposing. His is a little bit different, and this is under the, after there's a proposal for, a new tower. If the company that's proposing it has to do a public hearing if the municipality holds a public hearing. And this is just making it so that for any application other than mine right now says other than de minimis, but after talking to Greg, we would add or limited in scope, the municipal legislative body or the planning commission shall hold and the applicant shall attend a duly warned public meeting with the legislative body or planning commission or both within the 60-day period. And DPS shall attend that public meeting. So that there's a requirement that there's a public meeting, so people in the town know that it's happening and that DPS is there to hear their concerns. This was in one of the towns where there was a tower proposed in my district. I don't believe there was a public hearing. People didn't know about it because it wasn't a public hearing, and it kind of blew up after it was too late to do anything about it. So this is just to make sure that there's a public hearing, but especially in these really small towns, which is where a lot of these towers are proposed, that people will have an opportunity to come and talk to their local officials about it, and that the Department of Public Service, which is supposed to be the citizen advocate, will be required to be there to hear what the people say about it. So this is not a wholesale fix, but it hopefully will give at least a chance to be heard.
Yeah.
And the PUC is okay with this? Yeah.
Okay, what's the little
The little fix, which Ellen can support, yeah, there are 3 levels. There's de minimis, there's limited scope, and then there's the big projects. And Greg had suggested doing de minimis and limited in scope, but in looking at it late last night, I thought limited in scope was bigger than it actually is, so it would just add limited in scope. Which Greg or Ellen can explain better than me.
Can you do that while we sit here?
Yes.
Okay. Committee questions. Greg I know we talked about extending the timelines. This would work.
Right, so Greg Faber with UC, this would happen during an advance notice period. And give people a lot more information about the tower. And have the Department of Public Service there, that's a great idea. And it wouldn't be overly burdensome to the towns because it would only be for the big ones. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
And these meetings would be, Ellen made sure, I thought they would be, but she double checked with him that they would be public meetings and they would have to be, have minutes to be recorded, just like other meetings of select boards and planning commissions. So people who can't attend can also hear what happened.
I was Googling, but the warning time of those, you can do those within 48 hours, right? As long as you post them to your website, your municipal website, and 2 other spaces. So you could hold one within 2 days. You don't need like 2 weeks and then another 2 weeks from when the advertisement was run.
Correct. I mean, they could be warned as a special meeting, but they could also be warned as a regular select board meeting or a regular planning commission meeting. And those I have, I think, a 7-day warning period. I can't remember. Yeah. Putting like about that on, but there would be plenty of time within the 60-day period. So this would add to what we were already going to do, which was to just do the deadline. Was it 3 years that we decided? Yeah.
I have drafted and updated amendment and I'm sending to Charlotte. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, thank you, Ruth.
You're welcome.
Good work.
Thanks. We're trying to do something.
This is under that.
Yeah.
We'll just redraft 1.2.
It'll be 2.1.
2.0.
Okay. Whether they're internal or external or something like that.
Public drafts are the first, on the left side of the period, internal drafts on the right.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm not, it has to come up here. Yeah, that's that one.
Just waiting to see it on the website.
Yeah.
That can be at 5:15.
Can I hear 5:15?
I don't know. I hope so. Did you not? I just did. By the way, in those towns in Vermont, some property taxes are due today. So just a friendly reminder. How's that? Clerk this morning?
No. Ours is in June.
In some town.
Right.
Right. Get that out.
Ours is, I think it's, Big Pride.
Yeah.
I'm trying to 15. And in 3 more weeks, the water levels change. We have 2 more.
There it goes. It's there now.
There. Okay.
Your water bills are due at the beginning of the.
2 a year.
Oh, you're 2 a year.
Yeah. More expensive water.
Work quarterly.
Move favorably H527 amended with draft number 2.1 dated 5/15/2026 until 54 p.m.
Okay, Senator Chittenden has moved that we amend H 527 with draft 2.1. Included 3 minutes ago. Is there any, and this would, okay, this does it all, right? It does the expansion and it does Senator Hardy's.
Yes.
Okay.
And it, because it's a strike all, it's getting rid of the rest of it. Yeah, it's like, where is it going? So.
Yeah, no,
Report back.
okay. This is a strike. Yeah. Okay, further discussion. If not on this one, what below?
Sure. Senator Chittenden.
Yeah.
Senator Beck. Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Gulick.
Yes.
Senator Matos, yes. Senator Cummings.
Yes.
6-0-1.
Who would like to report this?
Happy to do it, but if it's your amendment, you just haven't taken one in a while. That's why.
I-
She's
Either-
gotten,
Yeah, I have a bunch, so I'd rather actually not do, I'd rather
you've
not.
got a couple.
But thank you, Senator.
Okay, so Senator
Let's-
Chittenden will do our order. Thank you. Okay, oh, we are on a roll. We are now going to take up educational technology products and we need Rick's. He is on his button. This was one somebody mentioned could get controversial.
Yeah.
A lot of emails I got.
I'm hearing a lot of chatter about this one.
Yeah, that one is
Okay,
not
I
a
have
good one.
no idea what's in it, some of these little.
Drug issues.
Is this,
When principals in my community are happy, I'm not happy.
I know.
oh, okay, so that's why you're here. All right, we're going, we've got this.
Sue quiet in the corner.
Yeah.
Yes, you said you do your fiscal note first, or would that not make
Oh,
sense?
principal's office.
It's probably easier.
I would think
Can we take a?
Rick should see it.
Yeah, let's